Welcome to the Robinson Hewitt Pod. I'm your host, Alison Mackey. I'm a futurist, a water governance director, and anthropologist. Today, we're going to mix it up a little bit. Usually, I talk about the anthropology of technology and I give you my little futuristic things about what I'm seeing in terms of technology and the next era. But today, I want to talk about something that kind of underpins everything that I do in terms of my governance work, business, strategy, and even just how I navigate my own life. And it's this really fun concept called crawl, walk, run. So I came up with this sort of governance strategy a couple of years ago when I was running multiple businesses and charities and things like that. And I was really overwhelmed with the amount of work that I had to do. And having a lot of stakeholders and having to answer to a lot of people, I had to come up with a strategy that felt like I personally could hold everything that I was building, as well as trying to double profits and things like that, as well as just keeping everybody happy. I'm just one person, but I figured out a way of being able to not only build capacity for myself, but also for the businesses and the ideas that I was building. So I want to go a little bit deeper with this because to me, this isn't just like a silly little framework or strategy. It's actually how you can actually take something that feels like so big and fully out of reach and totally make it real. So, especially right now, the world is incredibly chaotic and uh, our resources and the status quo just doesn't quite fit anymore. And so we have this moment in time to be able to cast a net out to a future that we can build. I kind of want to say straight off the bat, this idea of future facing, keep your eyes forward, actually came from watching Marty Supreme recently. And as we were walking back, I was talking with my friend, and we were just saying it's so funny how it's the movie set post-war and how normalized people had become. And I think that we need to remember that there is always an afterwards, and it's up to us to keep our eyes on that end goal as well. Some of us aren't going to be able to stop things that are happening right now, but what we can do is help prepare for what's next and make sure that that is the foundations are there for everyone to kind of thrive later on. So it's what we're building for, that's what we're aiming for. So even amongst the chaos, we can still have a little bit of a lighthouse and a North Star. But yeah, we at the moment our resources are totally constrained. We've got a lot of geopolitical things happening, and technology is, oh my God, is being so exciting, but kind of scary at the same time. So how do we build in the middle of all of this? I know that a lot of people are kind of, up in arms about what their purpose is in life, what they're supposed to be doing, how do we navigate all these shifts? And, how do you go after what you actually want in life? And how do you make sure that it works for the future? That's kind of what this whole topic is going to be about. And I want to start off with something that, I want to preface, I'm not religious, but I am incredibly spiritual. And there is a difference. But there's one saying that I adore from the Bible. And it's that you only need faith the size of a mustard seed to move a mountain. I have no clue where in the Bible that is from. I don't know who says it, what verse, I don't know. All I know is I love that saying. And I think when you think about it, it's almost I don't know, I think that idea of if faith at any size, right? As long as there is a glimpse of hope, then you have to work towards it. And there was a time where most people didn't even get the chance to test out their little mustard seeds of faith in life. And I think, previously we didn't have access to a lot of things with the internet. We didn't have access to education, to networks, or to people who could open doors for us. But now, and if you're watching this, you have access to resources. You already have a phone, a laptop, free tools and information available online. You have access. So it's not really, can you do something? It's, are you going to do something with it? And I think that's one of the greatest challenges that I've faced recently is that I don't know. I think it's one of those things of having to be amenable and having to change approaches in a new way that may not feel simple, if that makes sense. But sometimes things can actually be really simple. It's just, do you allow yourself the opportunity? And we have access to things now. So imagine, I want to like kind of just say this, like we're in a different time period. So imagine telling a kid that's working in a factory to not bother learning to read or write simply because his dad had worked there and then his grandfather had worked there, and that's all they had known, right? That's the pattern of societal expectations that they had. And that was the reality for a lot of people, for like the majority of human existence, right? Things were fixed for them. And so they developed a fixed mindset too with that. But now we have the opposite. We have total access to everything. If you are privileged enough to have access to the internet right now and a computer, then what's with the hesitation, right? But there's a story that I want to tell from Downton Abbey. I'm a huge Downton Abbey fan. If you haven't watched it, I'm so sorry. I'm going to give you like a sort of side character's spoiler. It doesn't really matter, but it's worth talking about. So there is a character called Mosley, and his story arc is quite the opposite of a lot of people. So at the beginning of the first season, he actually became butler and he was totally successful. He was a butler to the new heir, Matthew. And but the world starts to change, right? And World War One breaks out and he starts to decline in his status. His main character that he's looking after passes away, and so he's no longer needed as a butler. Um, and we start to see the need for his skill set as a butler being less and less valuable. And so you kind of watch him drop off in status and skill set and taking jobs that were below his previous rank. And the struggle was there, and it was quite, his character was for comedic, um, for the comedic timing and things like that. But we in this struggle of him, moving down the ranks of society, we start to see more and more of his real personality. We start to see him talking more about his love for books and history and talking about ideas of the world, and that, there is potential in what he would have done if he, didn't go into service. And eventually, by the end of the entire season, he actually becomes a teacher because the school noticed that he was, helping other people in service with books and doing maths and things like that. And I think that ultimately, even his downfall of, trying to stick to status quo, that was ever actually meant for him. He was meant to be a teacher. And the whole story arc sort of shows that. And you see how happy he is when he's finally teaching and the students actually respect him because he's worked in service. And he's more he has a better story for the students to connect to because they see themselves in him, right? Their parents are all working in service, and it shows that there is a better life out there. So I want to bring this up because I think it's a really good example of where we're at right now. I think if you Downton Abbey in general is a really good rewatch to look at the patterns of societies when we go through technological change, societal change, changes in status and structure, the downfall of the aristocrats, these sorts of things. We're starting to see this pattern playing out yet again here. We're right at the beginning of it though. So just watch it and kind of look at the lessons learned if you wish. But what we see with that is that the skill sets are shifting, the systems are shifting, as well as our identities. So how do we keep up with all these changes? And what are we going to do after it all happens, right? So if you're someone like me and you like to dream big, you will know this feeling of people questioning you and telling you, who the fuck do you think you are? Um, why do you think that would work? Go get a real job. When you start to get that sort of level of resistance, what I've learned is that you're probably either on the right track or you need to make some adjustments. Um, but you're stepping outside of what people expect of you and the social norms, and that can be really grating for some people. But what I find really interesting about all of this is that if an idea keeps coming back to you, then there's something in that. So I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I wanted to start doing this, and I had someone literally be like, "Why? and kind of judge me for it. And so I didn't do it. And you know what? 2 years later, here I am starting up, properly doing it because I wanted to. It's one of those things, if an idea keeps following you around, you should probably do it. Just gonna leave that there for somebody. So here's like another thing. Your brain, when you go to sleep, your brain can't actually make up new faces. There's been studies on this before in like sleep studies, but your brain actually can't make up faces. So if you dream of a face or somebody, you've actually crossed paths with them in your waking life and you've seen them from somewhere before. And if you take this concept and we place it on ideas, or a vision that you see yourself doing something at some point in your life, then that's possible. I totally believe that then that is then possible for you. So if you can see yourself doing something, then there's probably a version of reality where that could exist. Otherwise, like, how would your brain go there otherwise, right? But I want to make sure that this is where you can get yourself tripped up a little bit because the brain can also go into worst case scenarios. It can go into everything's going to fall apart. What if it doesn't work? So with this, you have to be quite intentional about your focus and what you actually want, right? Our minds are really powerful things, and we're starting to see that in daily conversations with people. Your mind creates your reality, and I think there's like that saying of like where thoughts go, energy flows, right? So we want to put energy and attention onto things that we actually want. So for me, I have a huge goal in my life. I'm not going to go into detail here because I don't want to jinx it, but people know about it. And it's to speak to a specific group of people about a specific topic. And I totally know it's possible because I've had, like, I can just see it happening, right? And because I've seen it happening in my mind, then that's enough for me to be like, yeah, that's totally possible. And I've seen other people do it too. So my thinking there is if I can see myself doing it and I have physical evidence of someone else like me doing it, why can't I? If they can do it, why can't I? So the question here becomes, how do you actually get there? How do we make sure that you're always facing in that right direction and in alignment with that goal? And that's what I'm here to do. This is where I pull together my beautiful strategy of crawl, walk, run, as long as like adding in the future facing framework and a couple of other little tips and tricks that I have. Um, I'm going to share my screen with you very quickly to get through this properly, because this is really important stuff. And I think that the more and more people that are in alignment with the same vision of the future, the more likely we are to see that outcome as well. Again, energy is very potent. So grab a notebook and we'll get to work. If you are listening on Spotify, we'll also be putting up a blog post on this. I also already have resources available on the website of the future facing strategy, as well as the Crawl Walk Run strategy on the website, as well as our future facing white paper as well, if you would like to go even deeper into this. But I'll share my screen now and get into it. Excellent. So here is the crawl, walk, run for work and play. This is part one, by the way. This is strategies for work and play. So next episode, I'll be going into a little bit more detail about how to actually implement it into proper strategies, as well as for your personal life, as well as business, because if you are a founder or a business owner, or if you're just someone who has a goal, you have to have both your inner life and your outer life in balance to do things. So let's get into it. So here's the core challenge with ideas today and goal setting. So we have an incredibly volatile era. Our biggest constraint is no longer about capital or skill. It is about capacity. It's no longer about what are we building? It's about can we hold what we're building? So my sort of thinking with this, I love thinking about Chloe Mal. She's a new chief editor at Vogue. And this beautiful transition that we've seen with Anna Wintour stepping down from editor-in-chief, in passing the baton on to Chloe Mal, right? There is this thing of the way that they have done that transition has been beautiful, where we still see Anna a lot of the time, and Chloe is still kind of ghosting her a little bit, shadowing her a little bit. That's a capacity thing. Vogue is a huge enterprise. And to just have someone, you wouldn't just be able to hire someone straight off the bat into that role because it is an iconic magazine. It would probably falter. Anna Wintour is big enough to hold that sort of brand, right? hold it all. She can. She does it with grace. And Chloe Mao, we can watch her in real time as she's just, she's still very much learning the ropes, but she's still shadowing Anna Wintour, which is perfect, a perfect example of being able to get to a point of being able to hold that huge job. It takes a lot of effort, but I think that's a whole other side. But here we go. Here's the goal for all of this is that we can build a structure that supports your attention, your energy and nervous system as you personally scale. So big dreams require you to become big too to hold them. Otherwise, your nervous system will fry. So we have the first step of all of this, which is to have a strategic foundation. And this is having a future-facing North Star. So every journey begins with a clear endpoint that acts as a lighthouse through the choppy seas of life. But we need to make sure that our lighthouse or our North Star is built for the next era and not the past. So there's no point in, it would be like, this is not investment advice, but it would be like telling someone right now to invest in rails when we're actually should be investing in, I don't know, airplanes or spacecrafts or something else, right? Like autonomous vehicles. That sort of thing of the rails are of the past, like steam rail of the past, right? That's another Downton Abbey like fact for you. He invested too much in rail. Anyways, so here we have the 5 future-facing principles. You can read our white paper to go more in depth of this, but this is basically the foundations for the future. Any strategy moving forward should kind of keep these in mind. You don't have to be perfect, but just an awareness is enough for now. So the first principle is to have enduring strength. So this is about having like lasting capability over temporary wins. So we're not about the hustle culture. We're about that enduring strength that lasts. Next is having distributed insight. This is making sure that we empower those closest to the information to act so that we're not always going to, and this can be going to advice as well. So this is making sure that you have distributed insight or getting information from places that aren't just from one source. Connection, being able to strengthen networks instead of working in silos. That's building community is really important in the future. Having regenerative value, so reinforcing the systems that you depend on rather than extracting from them. This is a really key for things like the environment or, don't tap into the same well, otherwise it will run dry, sort of an idea. And the last is trust and legitimacy. So this is about earning credibility through transparency and shared values. And this is why I vlog. I think that's one of the key things for the future if you're trying to build anything is having that authenticity is really important and being available as yourself. So that's the beginning. That's the North Star. How do we make sure that we are, as individuals, are internally aligned to it? We have 5 easy steps for this. The first is to focus on the solution. So usually we have this at the beginning, you have the problem and then the solution, right? So living in the end stage, get clear on where you're going and the details of all of this. So break down your goal and then work backwards from there. So imagine the goal has already happened. How would you act or think? What's changed? What's the resources that you need, right? This is almost like if you are going to buy a house or if you have a goal of owning a home one day, you won't just be like, I'm going to manifest a house. You would start thinking about, okay, so what are the mortgages like? What are the mortgage rates at the moment like? What are the general council rates like? Do I have enough in my investment portfolio to do that? Do I have enough in KiwiSaver if you're in New Zealand? How much do I need a budget for all of this? What's the upkeep like? What are the schools like? Start looking at the bigger picture rather than just the overall goal, right? Step 2 to all of this is cultivating that mustard seed of belief, going back to that idea of you only need faith the size of a mustard seed to move a mountain. So this is where you check your resistance. Do you believe that it is possible for you or for the world? Yes, no, or maybe. So ask yourself, do I believe it is possible for me to own a house? Yes, I do actually. I've seen other people do it. So there you go. That's an easy one. If you were to say no, I question it, really question it. Why? And that's when you have to address your own resistance. If there is a hint of a maybe, that is your little mustard seed of hope. Then faith is just the belief in the unseen. Step three with all of this is to release and detach. So here we write out if you feel any resistance and check on those beliefs. Know that if it has probably been done before, and if you're trying to do something that no one has ever done before, then flip it on this. Someone has done this, someone has already in the world done something that no one else has ever done before. So that same logic, then you too can do something that someone else hasn't done before. I love that. But with all of this is that you need to detach from it and be honest with yourself that you don't need it to survive. You will survive without this goal. And I think that's important to remember that survival is literally just breathing, drinking water, eating, shelter, the basics. If your big goal is, to own, a multi-million dollar company, you will probably survive without it. You'll be okay. You will be fine. And step number 4 is to move on. So once you've kind of done this internal alignment of thinking about this, it's best to move on from it and let it go and then move on to something else. This level of detachment is super important as it allows space for it to come in how it needs to and not how you want it to. Constantly checking on something will actually cause more resistance, and it will just keep you in that feedback loop of when is it coming? So here's the execution of it all. So here's the crawl, walk, run. So the crawl is all about the alignment. After you do the internal alignment, this is the external alignment. So these are the small, low-risk actions that require minimal energy, but are easily integrated into your new aligned routine and strategy. So the purpose of this is to have immersion and pattern recognition and to prepare your brain, body, and your nervous system for what is ahead. Then we go into the walk. So this is all about intention. This is where ambition starts to meet your capacity. Hey, we're taking slightly larger, more intentional steps, and they may feel a little bit more bigger than the crawl actions that we have. And the purpose for this is to start living as if the future is already forming around you. And this is to test your tolerance for uncertainty and to break through new layers of resistance. So every time you get to a new level in your strategies and you kind of meet a roadblock or a resistance, you work through that resistance and go through the internal alignment again and go through, it's been done before, or why do I believe in this thing? Go through that process all over again each time you hit a resistance. And then the final one is run. And this is all about the decisive actions. So here are the decisive high stake commitments where all the habits have become second nature and you're fully embodying the goal. So the purpose here is to take the leap towards the goal that now feels inevitable rather than reckless. And that's all due to your preparation. So how does this all look in action? So say you have a goal to speak on an international stage in Milan at a tech conference. So I actually start with, so once you do all the alignment work and all that sort of stuff, I always start with the run and I immerse myself with the version of me that's already speaking on stage. So I fully embody her. Who is she? Consult with her. Consult with your future self. What would my future self wish I had done today to make this the best day ever? Literally sit down and ask and write out on a piece of paper, what are all of the things? If you imagine yourself standing there, what would you need fully to be able to do that? So a few ideas would be to have, booked hotels, you'd have tickets to things, you'd have your presentation all ready, you'd be wearing a new outfit, you would have spending money ready to go, you'd have an itinerary for like a few days in Milan, you would have enough Italian words to get by, and you would have techniques to be able to confidently speak in front of 300 people, right? You'd have techniques to regulate your nervous system and all of that. So this is where we flesh out the run first. So we know that we're ready for this goal when we feel calm speaking in front of 300 people. We know a few relevant Italian words, and we know your presentation inside and out. So now that we work backwards, we can then think about a few steps to get in alignment with these. So we can start with the crawls now. So the crawls could be watching Milan vlogs, the walking around the city tours, right? Getting used to what Milan looks like. That's setting your brain up to being like, this is what we're working towards. I would also start studying a few words in Italian on Duolingo, getting that as part of your regular routine, getting used to words, getting used to how the mouth words sound, right? I would start researching past speakers and I would draft a for fun presentation and start attending local networking events relevant to the topic. It's these are the slow things that get your body ready and you start to, I don't know, start to embody it without actually having any form of total commitment to anything. A walk, so the walk actions are when you start to really build momentum towards us. And for me personally, I would start making aligned content on the topic and posting that online on LinkedIn and things like that. I would attend network events locally in my area and start talking about what you're wanting to do. You never know who's out there, right? I would start saving, putting aside play money for the trip and looking at an itinerary of things to do on a day off in Milan. And I would start actually submitting abstracts to other conferences because that could be, smaller conferences, but that too could open up some doors and help you with your nervous system regulation and building that capacity to be like, I am the person that speaks at conferences. This is what I do. It's that mental I am sort of shift that we start to see. And then the run is when you finally submit the abstract to the Milan conference. You book the tickets and you write the full presentation and you practice it every day. This is who you are now. You're no longer in the wishing for it. You are getting there, right? And the run is really important because even though, you will be on your way to speaking at the conference and, it's all well and good, your body still needs to adjust to being able to actually execute with that plan as well. And so that's where the nervous system regulation stuff and the I can do this starts to happen, right? Ooh. So that is today's little crawl walk run. This is only the beginning of this sort of section. Next week, I will also be going into a little bit more in terms of personal and business strategy work as well of how this actually looks on paper. This is just an introduction to it. It's served me so well. I have done so many things with this cute little strategy, and I hope you enjoyed it. You can find out more about RHC. So we're here to build the next era. We work at the intersection of anthropology, emerging technology, and long-term systems change to help future-facing leaders transform, evolve, and build the next era. You can start your journey with us. If you're still orienting, we have a lot of free resources available on our website, from the founder's journey to the future-facing framework. But if you're ready to take the leap, you can look at our resources online. And yeah, so be inspired and transform. Visit our website for more resources, insights, and next steps. And I will see you in the next one. Ciao.